Hey everybody, welcome to the Post Movie Podcast. I'm Steve Head.
I'm John Black.
And on this episode we're going to talk about new Blu-ray and DVD releases, of which we of course have a number of.
And as if we don't have enough, I Netflixed a movie I didn't have to review this week.
Which was?
Entrapment. Now when I say the film Entrapment, what do you think about?
Catherine Zeta-Jones doing calisthenics through
right.
lasers.
Exactly. That's why I rented it. You know what?
It's not The Entrapment.
No, the movie sucks.
You never saw Entrapment?
Oh, I've seen it. I had a sudden urge to reminisce about this calisthenics scene.
It's been parodied in like 1,000 different ways.
It should be. And you know what? It's still awesome. It's just stunning.
She got work in a way because she has, or had.
Because of that scene.
Like it's because she has the best ass in the business.
Wow,
and her ass slinking under those lasers is just, it's
awesome.
You know,
the movie itself.
She has a laser ass.
And it's the kind of thing, and it's like 45 minutes into the movie, and you watch it several times, and then you can throw the rest of the movie away because it's a crap movie. It's like one of Sean Connery's worst. She's not much of an actress, but
is she even doing anything these days except being a wife?
Doing Michael Douglas. Ugh. No, last thing she was in was it that cooking movie with
I don't know.
Guy?
Right. Yeah, the restaurant flick with Aaron Eckhart.
Yeah, I actually did that junket.
Yeah,
she's very pretty in person too. She's a funny lady too.
Yeah.
She is.
What I admire about Catherine Zeta-Jones is
I just
not
explained that
beyond her ass.
Yeah,
is the fact that she's taken roles that are not like easy to like. She plays characters because of maybe the type of person physically the type of person she is that the audience kind of hates her a little. She's
like,
sort of like
what?
High Fidelity. The shallow, sort of arrogant ex-girlfriend.
So hot,
the Metro, whichever.
It worked though.
One of the least likable of the girls in High Fidelity.
Yeah.
And she's done that a couple of times.
She did a couple of bad Zorro movies. She did Chicago.
She needs a Zorro again.
She needs something, but here it is. I've got literally 20-something movies to review this week, and I wasted 2 hours of my life just for that one.
Go for it, man!
Shot.
You were singing it when you came in.
No, I have one before I get to the.
I heard that song. I was like, it's one of the most beautiful themes he's ever written.
Do you think people recognize it from my bad interpretation?
Yeah, go.
Da 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 da.
That's enough.
I know. But that's enough, but it's through the whole movie. What we're talking about, obviously, is Jurassic Park. I got the three movie Blu-ray set the other day. It's like 600 hours of stuff to watch.
600 hours. It's a Jurassic set.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they added 2 hours of extras. Yeah. There's so many extras. But I just settled down and watched the first movie, and I had a blast. The dinosaurs still look pretty cool.
You know what I liked? I recently watched it again myself. One of the pluses of having a relative come over or having a family member come over is they choose DVDs off your shelf that you don't normally go for.
Right,
I have a really large selection. I have a really large erection. A really large erection of movies. I have a really large selection. So my brother goes for stuff like, I don't know, Gladiator, Jurassic Park, Pollock. Anyway, so he picks out Jurassic Park.
Right.
And Wayne Knight, again, just like stands out.
Sleazy, fat, Newman.
Yeah. And Richard Attenborough, man, he's still around.
Yep.
He's like, he must be pushing 90.
And Samuel L. Jackson was in it.
Yeah.
Smoking cigarettes down to the filter. And we were talking about asses before, and I don't want it to be a theme on everything. Laura Dern. Boy, was she beautiful in this movie.
Yeah.
She's still an attractive woman. I think she's a really good actress. But there are just shots in this movie where she's gorgeous.
And Jeff Goldblum,
pretty, but not on the same level.
And Jeff Goldblum playing off of her.
Yeah.
is,
But
they have great on-screen chemistry.
there's a hilarious shot after Jeff Goldblum's been injured, where he's lying on I don't know if he's lying across a desktop or whatever, but he's got his shirt wide open, and he's got, like they've given him this glamour shot of a chest, and he's just laying there like all hunky, and it's just fucking hilarious. It's like, oh really? Can't we go back to Laura Dern, or at least a dinosaur? Not to look at your ass, Jeff. But lots of fun. The movies go downhill, as sequels often do. Yeah. But I've just broken into the set, and the extras are wild. But just this,
I found the kids in the original film kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Extremely
annoying. I want to know where they are now. I hope that's on the extras.
You can tell, so you can get what the vibes Sam Neill was getting as he was trying to escape.
I completely identify with Sam Neill when he talks about they're dirty, they're sticky, they smell, and she goes, they don't smell. Some kids smell. They just do. I don't, but of course, because it's a Steven Spielberg
that
movie.
Scene though, man, where the T-Rex attacks the cars. In that first attack is just unforgettable.
Yeah.
And at a time when we didn't have CGI stuff on screen like this, it was really quite astonishing.
When did the first one come out?
So 93, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, and it's still, like I said, it still looks good. The dinosaurs still look... And it's funny because last week we talked about Gamera, and it's guys in rubber suits and flying turtles and, just... the complete opposite of this, and I like those movies too. But the Blu-ray edition of Jurassic Park is, I don't know if it's worth. I think they're charging a lot of money for it, but
a Jurassic price for a Jurassic film. But you know what? It's great.
They're
filmmaking.
Classics, yeah,
man.
yeah.
I just I would not turn it off if it were on again.
No.
And Spielberg has so many moments in the original where. It's just his ability to use pans and zooming in and zooming out from characters in the foreground and the background and the way he covers action. It's just
talk about a guy who knows how to use humor.
It's amazing
to break and to build tension. It's just and character too.
And the way he cast these films was that. The actors had were able to have such amazing, astonishing expressions on their face, which is so important because a lot of this film is just like, oh, holy shit! Like,
look at that tennis ball.
Yeah. It just that's kind of what he had to do to achieve the supposed reality of the dinosaurs, and that's
Have you done the ride?
No, you have?
Yeah, it's fun. Of course, I did.
Did they have the spitting dinosaur?
Yeah, but he doesn't spit on you in the ride. And then they have a T-Rex, and they have the dinosaur that's lying on its side, and Laura Dern digs through his poop.
Yeah,
they have that dinosaur lying on its side.
What does Jeff Goldblum say? That's a whole lot of shit.
Yeah. Anyway, I can't wait to dig through the rest of the set. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Cool. I'm eager to see that on Blu-ray, and that's already out.
It comes out on the 25th.
Another one on the 25th. From Lionsgate, Mothman, starring Kaylee from Firefly.
Okay.
Admittedly, this is sort of another teenage horror flick, and she plays a journalist. Kaylee, God, what's her name? Jewel Staite. So really, really young when she did Firefly, and she's still maybe I guess she's in her late 20s, but she's she's a bit older than. The kids in this movie, and she plays this journalist going back to her hometown to investigate this legend of the Mothman. And it's sort of like one of these I Know What You Did Last Summer plots where accidental homicide and then in a lake, and then the kids all agree, Kaylee among them, or Kaylee Jewel Staite, to fabricate a story about how this kid actually died when they were just fooling around and pretending to drown him, and he accidentally got sucked under too deep and really drowned. So they fabricate this story that he gets hit in the head.
All right.
And years later, she's invited to cover this Mothman festival. And so she's kind of tenuous about wanting to go back, but obviously she does. And it's about this creature, this legend that haunts people in sort of like it appears in mirrors, but it's also like the CGI extension. Like the mirror can turn into this creature and come out and grab you. And
Good CGI, or is it?
It's kind of bad CGI, but
Okay.
this is one of those films that's like in the teenage kids horror fun kind of thing. So it's bad in its way, it's good in its trashy way.
But is it better than stuff like Prom Night, when like when they take classic old horror movies and make them PG-13 horror movies?
No, this has the pretension of like good-looking young kids preening and talking about dating and sex, and it's just that kind of bullshit.
Right.
So it's kind of targeted to that audience.
Cool.
But it's right for Lionsgate, and certainly right for Jewel Staite fans. Mothman, now out. John, what you got?
Oh, we always talk about those MGM like made-on-demand movies, where you have to order them before they'll even print the disc.
Right. Movie MOD movie. On
Right. How do you, when you get a list? Now we get a list from MGM of like 40 movies, and they say pick 4.
Right.
How do you judge? Do you go for just stuff you've never heard of? Do you go for classics? Do you go according to actors or directors?
The first thing I look for is the director. And then I'll level with you. I look for a notable actor.
Yeah.
And then I try to keep it in the decade, because I know the 70s and the 80s. I know, having really lived at being really hardcore into like cinephile, even in the 80s, I know which movies weren't, really visible, really good.
Right.
So I don't really much go for any of their 80s, 90s titles. I tend to stick to the early 70s, 60s.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty much the same way. I don't really think about directors that much, but I definitely go for stars. And they had one recently that had Anita Ekberg in it from La Dolce Vita.
Yeah.
The chick in the fountain. And it's this movie called Valerie with Sterling Hayden. And it's a Western, 1957 Western. And it starts out with Sterling Hayden riding up to a farmhouse, going in and killing everyone inside. And then the sheriff goes and finds him, and he goes, well, it's okay, I did what any man would. But then you find out the woman in the farmhouse, who was his wife, didn't die. So she's clinging on to life. But they take him to trial. They portray her as the town slut, and he had no choice but to shoot her and her whole family. And they're about to acquit him when someone runs in and says, she's awake. And so they move the courthouse to the hospital, and Anita Ekberg tells her side of the story, and it turns out this guy was a psycho who used to torture people in the Civil War, and he made her life hell, and blah, blah, blah. There's a little Rashomon thing going on, Anyway, it's really cool. Sterling Hayden, it's a good performance by him. The thing that killed me about it was Anita Ekberg, who's a beautiful, beautiful woman. She's been shot. She's on her deathbed, and the camera shows us on her deathbed. Man, isn't she laying there with like perfectly manicured fingernails, beautiful eyelashes, the lighting just right as she lays there on her deathbed.
It's the 50s.
Yeah, 57. Yeah, it was just fun. It had a great ending. I just get a kick out of it. I'd never heard of it. I had no idea what it was. Valerie, 1957. So I would check it out. It was a lot of fun.
I will check it out. I'm intrigued. This must have been pre La Dolce Vita.
Yes.
It was like 59.
Yes, because she was a lot thinner. She was there, everybody.
John, you need some coffee.
I just finished a
keep that in
quart
straight.
of this thirst quencher from Gatorade, which I only bought it, and I told you this before. I only bought this kind of Gatorade because it looked like Krypton, liquid Krypton. It was that neon green color, and it's called Rain Lime. What a stupid fucking name. Lime Rain makes sense. Rain Lime doesn't.
That'll be in some product placement somewhere.
I'm gonna be, my poop's gonna glow for days because I.
Thanks,
drank
John.
that. No problem. Anyway, top that, sucker.
From that,
Speaking of
move
glowing
on
poop,
to Captain America: The First Avenger is out on Blu-ray October 25th, and man, this is like one of my favorite movies of the year, and I'm embarrassed to say it.
don't be. It's a good movie.
And you know what you get on this? You get the you get these things that it's Marvel one-shot movie. Have you watched?
I haven't seen the extras yet.
There's a 3 or 5 minute short film on here, which is it's called Marvel One Shot. A funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer, and it stars Clark Gregg.
Okay.
As he makes a stop to get some gasoline on his way to Thor's hammer. And it's this confrontation that happens inside the gas station with some thugs, and it's basically Clark Gregg, the guy who will run the Avengers, taking care of business.
Cool.
So it's like, these little things are kind of a way, like canon. I don't know if this was online or before. The first time I ever saw it was on this disc.
Yeah.
And so it's not like this huge half-hour thing. It's only 3 or 5 minutes or something like that, but it was neat.
We both liked Captain America when it was in theaters.
Yeah.
And it was on a big screen in 3D. Did it translate well for you on TV?
I loved it. And I also digged the deleted scene stuff. They've deleted this like huge CGI tank. Mm-hmm. It's like, that in the movie there's this gun that's like a ray that basically, it's a Blu-ray that just like disintegrates people. This tank, this monstrous looking, God, what's the the bad guys? If only Bob was here, he could tell us. Who designs all the bad guys' equipment. This just outrageous looking semi-futuristic tank, just like picking people off on the battlefield, crashing through walls. This is just one of the things that they cut out amongst the deleted scenes. Also, an extended deleted scene with Samuel L. Jackson at the end of the film.
Well, the reason I was asking about watching it on TV because last week I watched Green Lantern.
Yeah. And
I didn't like it in movies. It's a lot better on TV.
Yeah.
Somehow the scale of it works better on TV. But in the extras for Captain America, did they show how they made Chris Evans, a skinny little punk?
They did. It was really fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a combination of things. It was a combination of them using special effects houses to deflate his body. Mm-hmm. And then there were a few scenes where they did have a double for him that was a real emaciated British guy, but it turns out even that guy wasn't skinny enough, so they still had to shrink his body down. So for various shots and various sorts of angles, so that they could convincingly convey it, they had different special effects houses do it. And they had the full Chris Evans would act through the scenes with everybody.
Right.
But they'd go back and just deflate his body. So yeah, that was fascinating. They also go in sort of into the characters of his commandos, the team that Captain America fights with, and the history of the comic book and the history of the style of the costume, which was kind of neat. That they knew that they couldn't get away with what the costume really was, so that they put it in that short parody that sort of Captain America going from town to town in the U.S., so sort of inspiring the troops.
Right.
So they show how they paid homage to that, but yet at the same time, in this world's real version of Captain America, you had this kick-ass semi-armor kind of thing, and it all seemed, They just did it so convincingly.
Oh, yeah.
And fun in such a fun way. I can't wait to see the movie again. I can't. You're looking at me like, Steve.
No. I'm trying not to cough. I was waiting for you to stop so I could cough. Anyway.
It's a great disc.
Oh yeah. I had a blast.
It's a really good one to have.
On the
Comes out on the 25th.
On the same subject, not to get all superhero about everyone.
Oh, do.
There's this TV show. I guess it's on the Disney Channel called Earth's Mightiest Heroes: The Avengers.
Yeah.
And so they just sent out Volume 3 and 4, and man, if the Avengers movie is half as much fun as these half-hour animated films are, I can't wait.
That reminds me, in the special features,
they have
one of them.
bonus?
There's like a 3-minute short lead up to the Avengers movie where they have. It's hardly worth it. I had an expectation that it was going to reveal more stuff, but it's basically some quick camera footage of Joss Whedon and company filming on the first day.
Right.
The Avengers. So People, don't get your hopes up for the Avengers stuff on the Captain America disc,
but definitely
tiny
go
bit of
looking for these.
stuff
I mean,
there.
a lot of people have a aversion, I think it is, to animation in general, but also like, oh, it's an afternoon kids show. How good can it be? These
What,
are
no Elijah Dushku in this one?
no, but she is Catwoman.
Yeah.
No, these have good voice acting. They're bright and colorful. The stories are good. The characters are well developed. And the thing is, they're half-hour shows, but the plot carries over to be, for the whole season. So go out and get volumes 1 and 2, but 3 and 4, they stand on their own, but there's also an overall story.
Is each disc specific to a character? Like Volume 3 is Iron Man Unleashed?
They say that, but the subtitles, and Volume 3 is Iron Man Unleashed, Volume 4 is Thor's Last Stand. But no, because my only complaint about watching these was too much Ant-Man, not enough Hulk. I never cared about Ant-Man when I was a kid. Why would I care about Ant-Man and Wasp?
It's amazing to me that Ant-Man did not resonate with me at all.
No,
and yet apparently there's a movie.
You know what his power is? He talks to fucking ants. Who cares? Or he can grow big, but then he has emotional problems too. So I hate heroes with emotional problems.
Well, that's most of them.
Yeah, but this guy is like just a wimp about him. So anyway, check them out. They're a lot of fun if you're in the superhero mood.
Cool. Anchor Bay has a new horror. As they come out with a number of horror movies, they've got The Howling Reborn, which came out on the 18th.
What number of Howling is this?
It's number 4.
Is it?
Something like that.
I thought it was more than that.
Was it 4?
I don't know.
This movie doesn't really bear much of a connection to the original Howling, or the others, for as far as I can remember. But in the only connections that I think it has is that it shares the point with, like, you remember at the ending of the first movie when Dee Wallace is the sportscaster and she's changing into the werewolf at the end.
Right.
There's the kid who stars in this movie. He also wants to make the point to the world at large, because I guess in the same world, these people still don't know that werewolves exist.
Right.
By changing as it's being videotaped, and sharing with people. But whatever. So there's nothing that really connects this to the original
Patrick
film.
McNee, no Dee Wallace. Is Dee Wallace still around? Dee Wallace Stone?
Yeah.
She was. If people don't remember,
she was in something recently. I can't remember.
She was like the horror movie babe for a long time. Always playing the hot mom.
Yeah.
So anyway.
This version basically entirely takes place in a high school. And stars this kid Landon Librion, Liboiron. I've never heard of him before. Apparently he's on.
Never hear of him again.
Well, he's on Terra Nova, so
yeah,
that's how they're marketing it. I don't know. I don't know. Terra Nova is actually getting some consistent ratings, I've been told. So that's another.
Anyway, that's another show.
But this takes place in a high school where it's like in the last week of graduation. And the setup is that he is the son of this broken family, where apparently the mom was a werewolf, but she didn't let anybody know, and her father wasn't good enough for him, and she wants to come back. He thought she was dead. He's basically lived until the age of 18 without her. She comes back as this really like aggressive alpha werewolf, and all of her drones, comes back to the high school just like days before, on the day of his graduation, to try and, apparently he's had a really late blossoming as a werewolf, because it's supposed to be brought on by puberty or something like that. She even makes the joke about that in the film. But this whole werewolf rebirth is going to take place in the high school, in the basement. So she's this Australian or German model. I mean, I forget her name.
Australian, German. It's one of those Nordic countries.
Yeah, she basically is like recruited all these werewolf cronies, and and turned a bunch of people that work in the high school into werewolves.
Right.
So they have their like werewolf hive in the basement. At the same time, the prime story here is the relationship that the kid is having with this. The object of his desire. He thinks that she's a werewolf. It's a little confusing. She's kind of playing games with him. It's like fucking Twilight werewolves. It's like it's the whole kind of like, it's not sexy. You know what? sexy werewolves. I mean, in a way, I guess it is.
Does he, when he turns into a werewolf, does he play basketball?
No. No, I think I can say that maybe one thing in the design that kind of is similar to the werewolves from the original film are the designs of the werewolves in this film, except that they're filmed. They're not really CGI,
right?
And they're filmed so closely that it's kind of a mess, and you can't really find out what's going on with the werewolves. Also, you don't really get werewolves in the film until around 45 minutes in.
Yeah,
it's just like a lot of playing around with the high. I remember thinking, where the fuck are the werewolves?
Right.
You know, nearly an hour into the movie, but at the same time, it's a technically proficient film.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful. It has good production value.
Right.
But it's like a good rental for teenage kids.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Just like looking for a scare or something like that.
Right.
It's not. It's really not much more than that.
Remember going to the drive-in and it'd be like 5 movies or 3 movies that night? You know, this sounds like it'd be the second movie of the night.
Yeah.
You know, it's still kind of light out, so you're not going to see the whole movie, but we got to get things started. Well, it doesn't sound like something I want to check out, especially because I rate werewolf movies on the transformations, and these don't sound very interesting. No.
Just I was intrigued. There's a really cool shot of there's a scene where the kid is kind of trapped in the library with his girlfriend in front of this stained glass window, and in order to escape his mom, he pushes his girlfriend out the window, and there's kind of this slow motion fall where he has to break her fall. It's actually kind of cool. In the way that like werewolves have regenerative properties, after he smashes into the sidewalk 5 stories down, his body kind of has to like reinflate. So that was kind of freaking strange, but
cool.
Anyway, The Howling Reborn.
All right.
Now on Blu-ray. Now on Blu-ray and DVD.
Cool. I saw a movie called The Captains.
I haven't heard of it.
It's a documentary by William Shatner.
What?
And he goes around and interviews the other captains of the other enterprises. So he talks.
This is new?
Yeah. It came out this week. So he interviews Patrick Stewart, who was Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Kate Mulgrew, who was Captain Catherine Janeway.
Boy, she's taking a lot of heat from fans.
Avery Brooks, who was Captain Benjamin Sisko, and Scott Bakula, who was Captain Jonathan Archer, and Chris Pine, who was Captain
of
James
the Enterprise
T. Kirk
that
led
to my complete disinterest in the franchise until
so. I should warn people, this is a William Shatner documentary, and he does sing. So, because Avery Brooks, they do their interviews around a piano, and they both sing, and neither one really sings very well.
So they do nightclub?
No, this is just in the guy's house. So anyway,
they have another career that they get if they wanted to.
Shatner's on a quest, to find out what it is about being a Star Trek captain, and it kind of fumbled along in the beginning. He's not a really good interviewer. He's kind of aggressive and not pleasant to listen to. But the more as the movie moves on and there's more time with each character, it gets pretty interesting. Patrick Stewart was my favorite. He was my favorite captain, so he's my favorite interview.
He has the most electricity.
Yeah, but they also talk about, like, the last thing he wanted to do was this part. And, when he signed on, it was a 6-year contract, and he didn't want to do it for 6 years. But everyone told him, don't worry, it won't last that long.
What about the new Kirk? What's his name? Chris Pine.
Chris Pine. For some reason, he and Shatner sit down and arm wrestle, which is kind of awkward and stupid. But they all have a passion for acting. They're all stage actors who... Pine talks a little bit about trying to not imitate Kirk, but try to, echo him in ways. I'm not a huge Trekkie. I'm kind of like a Trekkie with a small T.
Fly by night?
Yeah. If it gets me laid, I'll pretend I know what I'm talking about. So that's why I watch movies like this. Anyway, it was kind of interesting, kind of fun. and I think fans, Trekkies,
I'm
will
intrigued.
be
Check it out.
sci-fi fans will really like it. So it's well done. I'll give them that much.
John, did you see Page One?
Yes.
The New York Times documentary?
Yes.
I just saw it last night for the first time. I found it as a journalist inspiring.
Oh God, yeah.
I think it kind of went. It played at the Coolidge for a little while, and it was kind of like, what am I trying to say? It was sort of middle of the road. It wasn't kind of well received, I guess.
Yeah.
But I really liked the behind the scenes look that it gave you in how editors choose their stories.
Yeah.
And what it takes for something to reach, the paper. I don't think it's like constructed in such a way as it's like a real gripping drama, like Waiting for Superman was. I mean,
I hated that.
I mean, I thought it was very effective. I nearly cried towards the end of that one.
You did.
I did. I got all. I wanted all those kids to do well. I wanted
look at you
to get into
crying.
their schools.
Yeah. Well.
Here it wasn't like. Yes, some people. The overall thing here, the foreboding element of this movie is people losing their jobs and the decreased apparent effectiveness of the Times. With all the other media, and you had said that there was one journalist in this movie that struck you, that you found inspiring. I should have written the guy's name down.
David Carr.
Thank you. He writes the media page for the New York Times.
Yeah.
Follows it daily. He is a rounded character in the film. There's a couple of people at the Times. Some managing editors that get a lot of camera time. The young kid who's was a blogger, media blogger, television, that kind of stuff, who actually got a job at the Times because he just lived it. And then there's this older fellow who's in his mid-50s who...
Yeah, he just bleeds.
His life was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, as he said, an arrested, coked up bum on the streets in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and his life he's turned his life around since then, and his journalist ethic is really strong, and he does hard news. It's not a joke.
No, he brings down.
Although it's treated by a joke by some people that are called his colleagues.
Yeah, but he brings down a media conglomerate, that were scumbags, and he does. I love watching him, follow that story. I just admire his.
That story being the downfall of the Tribune Company,
right,
and being run by people who were not
journalists.
Not journalists, businessmen, and it turned into something of a frat house atmosphere.
And he did the due diligence. He won a Pulitzer for that story. Wow. Or did he? I don't know. But I just admire the guy's ethics. And, you mentioned crying at Waiting for Superman. I got a little welled up at the beginning of this movie just because they showed a printery. I used to, when I worked at the Cape Cod, which is where I started as a journalist, they printed the paper in the basement of the building, and you could feel the presses like rumble through the floor, and you would get up out of your seat and go watch the paper come off the press.
It's interesting to see how they line up all those fonts and the metal plates. It's just foreign to me.
I love being a journalist. Love it. It's what I was made to do, despite what everyone thinks. And that's what I loved about this story. It was showing me the supposed death of my industry, but these were my people too. It'd be like a baseball player watching a great sports movie, I guess. These are newspaper people, not bloggers, not that there's anything wrong with them, but these are newspaper people. There's a difference.
It does make a terrific point about diligence.
Yeah.
And where original news comes from and how it's not tainted.
Mm-hmm.
And which is so often constantly. Do you know where this news came from?
Right.
That's a good question.
Right. There's a great scene where David Carr is sitting with other panelists, and they're talking about how their website gets so many more hits, and we do this better, and we do that better.
Oh, Gawker is the worst of it because they sit everybody in a room, and basically it's about writing titles that appropriate someone else's news, and it's designed to get hits.
Right. That's all it is designed to get hits.
Gawker is not going to save the world.
No.
Gawker is not designed to really be important to someone.
There's no ethics
Except in
in
like
Gawker.
sending some goofball link to someone that just got somebody's attention. I mean, Gawker is a giant parasite.
Right.
The New York Times, for better or for worse, is hard news. Is treated as such, even by the major networks.
Well, there's that scene where they talk about these sites that just gather other people's stuff and
aggregate.
Yeah, and and then he holds up. He
Movie
goes, "Well,
news sites do that all the time."
When I take off all the New York Times stories, and he holds up, it basically looks like a piece of Swiss cheese.
These, like in movie news terms, they're just reporting other people's news, other websites' news. Who amongst these people do we really know who are picking up the phone and getting in touch and aggressively, work in the news? When I was with IGN, I wasn't just, taking someone else's news. I was calling the production people. I was calling the office. We wanted to find out the making of, V for Vendetta. What's the status of it? We call Joel Silver's office.
Right.
We're not going to take someone else's rumor.
You're especially not going to take the press release from Joel Silver.
That's a big difference between a lot of these internet journalists and
professional journalists.
Is they pick up the phone. They get on the phone. They talk. They pound the pavement. So.
And they get someone to verify the facts, and
it's a big difference.
Yeah, it's the difference between what I do for a living and what a lot of people who
and how someone can post 5 to 8 news stories a day on a blog.
Right. I've worked with aggregate sources before, and just searched the web and copied other people's work. But there are people out there that are copying other people's work and then putting their name on it, or making it seem like it's theirs, or taking a story about. They're taking a Kim Kardashian story, or they're taking a story that might not even be Kim Kardashian's, but it's like, oh, this story comes from the same neighborhood where Kim Kardashian's butt lives, and that'll get more hits because it's got Kim Kardashian's butt in the title.
Right.
It doesn't even have to be a story about her butt.
Counting how many hits they're getting from these stories they're linking to. I want to say, though, that the guy, the young kid who does the media blog for the New York Times, I forget what it's called, he's actually inspiring in a way because they show him as being always tuned in.
Right.
But what they also showed him doing is in the process of writing his story was that he's on the phone talking to the real people, making his story, getting quotes from people and putting that into his story.
Mm-hmm. And I love it when David Carr, towards the end of the film, starts to discover tweets.
Oh, and, yes. Also, the importance of Twitter.
Yeah.
That it really, by being in on Twitter, really helped you get the voice of what was happening to news as it was happening.
Right. But at the same time, I'm so sick of watching like Sports Center, and they go, LeBron James tweeted today that he's got athlete's foot. And they're reporting this because some idiot athlete tweeted about it. You know what it
makes me think, John? It's like, we got to get our Twitter shit together.
I have a Twitter account.
I have a Twitter account too, except it was some virus or something got into it and started spreading some.
Oh, your weight loss thing, right?
Fucking yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get one of those?
No.
So I haven't used my Twitter account since then. I changed the password, stopped it. But we should have like a Twitter account for the Post Movie Podcast itself.
But you know what my problem with Twitter is? Every time I tweet, a little voice in my head says, "Who gives a fuck?" Yeah. And it just makes me laugh. I'm like, all right, nobody does.
Somebody
and I stop.
Somebody's going to follow you.
I have 1,000-something followers on Event Guide. Yeah. Stop following me. Get your own thing.
John, what else you got over there?
What else have I got? I want to talk about Red State.
Do it.
Here's a movie. It's a Kevin Smith circus. So even before the movie's been seen, it's news stories out of was it Sundance, where he bought his own movie back or something, and then he's taking it on a tour around the country where you have to pay $80 to watch the movie and hear him speak, blah blah blah. So I had none of this. I didn't see any of it. The movie arrives. I liked it. I thought it was one of his best movies. I can't believe this is the same guy who directed that piece of shit Cop Out, because the action scenes in Cop Out were awful. They were just awful. The action in Red State... I regretfully
report that this is probably his most technically proficient film.
My God, yeah. The action in Red State works. It's well-paced action scenes. The characters are a little over the top. It's about a cult in, I guess it's in the Midwest. It's this religious cult. Some kids, they're like anti-homo, anti-this, anti-that. Some kids reply to an ad or an outline ad to go visit this woman who's gonna have sex with them. It turns out she works with the cult. They kidnap them and they're gonna kill them, as you know, because they're because more than one man in a room with a woman is homosexual. So anyway, the politics in the movie I think are a little clumsy. The speech, the guy who's the reverend in the movie, I don't know his name off the top of my head. He gives the long ass sermon, which really almost made me stop the movie.
For the first like half hour, you don't know if it seems like it's like some sicko horror movie.
Yeah, but it's not. It's kind of it's an action movie.
And then it has like 45 minutes of straight on action.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. John Goodman's in it, looking like he lost a lot of weight. He's good. Kevin Pollak gets shot in the head. I'm always a big fan of Kevin Pollak dying in movies. Unfortunately, he has to open his mouth beforehand, but he gets shot in the head. I'm happy with that. The movie itself, I think, is good. It's a solid like B- C+ kind of movie. But then you get the DVD, and then there's like, so it's a 90-minute movie, and there's like 600 hours of Kevin Smith telling you how fucking great it is. I don't need that.
Kevin Smith sells it.
Yeah,
a whole lot of selling it.
He gets really annoying really quickly for me.
All right.
And I like the guy, but I don't need to see his, the extras are overpowering in this.
It's the life. Not only do you get the movie, you get the life.
Believe me, I've read one of his books where he's like, I'm taking a dump. Who cares?
Oh, you should listen to what he talks about on his podcast.
No, I don't need to.
It's like,
I have I like the man's work, and I kind of admire him as a filmmaker. But as a person, he annoys the hell out of me after like 10 minutes.
I actually think that like his take on comics and the whole comic thing it's pretty disgusting in a way. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like what he does for the image of geeks into the mainstream isn't actually a good thing.
No,
it's pretty disgusting in a way. But I got to report this is the culmination of his years of learning how to make movies, and believe me, we've seen what he's gone through to learn how to make a movie.
Yeah, I've seen everything he's done up to now, and I was just impressed by this. I think it almost makes up for a cop out. Almost.
I think it does.
Yeah,
I was impressed. I was unsettled by some of the things that happened at Red State. It was good. From that, moving on to Winnie the Pooh. Have we discussed? We reviewed Winnie the Pooh, right?
I did. I raved about it. Yeah.
I watched it this morning. I was laughing out loud.
He's a tubby little cubby all stuffed with fluff.
The way he carries himself, he's so stupid, man. But
bother.
It's awesome.
They're
an Eeyore looking for his tail, and everybody trying to chip in to get his tail, and Mr. Owl, whatever, develops. Comes up with the whole idea of the Baksoon monster.
And wasn't that a great bit of animation?
Yeah, I regretfully, it's a kids film.
No,
there's extra features on this movie about like how to decorate your kids' room as a Pooh palace.
That's what you didn't hear. This is Steve's Pooh
Palace. No, but this is important, John, for the moms that do that extra feature on the DVD. The kids, it's important. But I really enjoyed this for its artistic integrity.
Yeah,
it's 2D animation. It looks great. And it was very funny. I was laughing out loud.
And it's really imaginative when the way they use the book and words interact with
and
letters.
Pooh falls off the letters and he's like, I wish that paragraph was longer.
This is actually, and I mean this in all sincerity, this is one of the, I wouldn't be surprised if this I'd like to see this get an Oscar nomination for Best Animated Film.
I wondered about it. Possibly. I kind of doubt it, though. Possibly.
What else is animated films have been out there that come close to being as delightful as this? I know it's old school, but as delightful. And let's not forget.
Delightful is the word.
Zooey Deschanel.
Yeah.
Singing the songs.
Yeah. She's a whole lot of cuteness.
She's
no doubt about that.
And it fits. Her voice fits into this more
because
than
it has this
else.
sort of lazy, laid back quality to it.
Yep, it's kind of
there's
it's
a
kind of
dizziness
stoner.
in what's going on with these characters.
Do you remember the early Poos, like Blustery Day and all those when you were a kid?
Well, yeah, and they have a homage to that in one of the little extra feature movies here about they sort of redo. There's two mini bonus features on the disc. There's one called the Ballad of Nessie, which is about a
with Billy Connolly.
Right? Did that play before the movie?
Yep, that played before the movie in theaters.
John Lasseter produced.
Yep. Which
thing.
is nice. It's
that
fun.
was a nice film, yeah. And then there's this other one, The Mini Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, the Balloon, which is an older episode from the late 60s, early 70s that they've sort of refabricated with voices and editing maybe not so much editing, but the voices, the Pooh wanting to get some honey from a beehive up in the tree and
using a balloon.
Yeah, it's the classic animation.
Pooh.
Yeah.
How can you not love this movie?
There's a whole bunch of deleted scenes on here. I haven't gone through them yet, but
are they fully developed, or are they just like animatics?
Well, they are fully developed in the sense that they're fully animated. Fully animated, but not colored. So I did watch the tummy song, which is the first deleted scene. It's not. It's an extended scene, so you get the full nuance of the animation, except there's no color. So I'm guessing that's what the other deleted scenes are like.
And here's the thing: I love the voices in this. I love the music.
Yeah,
but
they just tie in great. The voices.
When Pooh starts bugging out about his need for honey, and he starts fantasizing
the 3D
and stuff.
honey
that's
waterfall
just some crazy, crazy animation.
Yeah.
I was tickled pink. I've watched it again and again.
I recommend it.
Very happy.
I was like, I want to give this Blu-ray to my niece and nephew, but I'm wondering, could they be too old for it at 8 and is 8 too old for this?
No, I'm 52. I was fine. I was happy with it. I don't think, and the thing is, having seen the originals in theaters when I was a kid, I remember the voice of Sebastian Cabot.
Yeah.
And here they've got the voice of oh my God, the guy from Monty Python, John Cleese.
John Cleese, terrific voiceover,
perfect narration.
Yeah.
Again,
and they really capture what the original voices were.
Yeah.
What we remember as kids.
And the thing, it's such a simple idea. Eeyore's lost his tail.
Yeah.
So when they put other things on him, like the umbrella and the other tails on him.
John, question: what is Eeyore? Is Eeyore a donkey?
Yeah.
Or a dog?
Donkey.
Okay, just wanted to be sure.
Eeyore.
Sarah and I were talking about this last night. We were like, there was a moment during the film where she thought that he was referred to as a dog or something like that, and we were I was like, what? He's a donkey, right?
Right. That's his name. Eeyore, like a donkey.
There's a scene in the film where Tigger wants to make Eeyore Tigger number 2 because it's really great to be a Tigger because there's only one Tigger.
Right.
But it'd be nice to have another one too. So he paints him and then he ties a spring to the thumbtack that basically is where his tail should be, and it puts Eeyore through an exercise that the guy has never been through before. You could tell by the way Eeyore was animated. It was pretty damn funny.
Eeyore's my favorite. I just love the fact that he's a depressive donkey.
It is about depression.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
it is.
But it's also about honey and friendship and just delightful.
Pooh, I am just a dark, stormy cloud. Don't pay no attention to me. I think we're good.
Yeah, let's end on that.
So send us an email, people. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think of the movies we talked about. Hey, John, come to think of it, did you get to see The Last Circus from Magnolia?
Not yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch that this week. We'll talk about it next week.
It's not something to follow up with Pooh.
No, it's not. Send us an email. Let us know what you think. We're at contact@post-movie.net. All of our episodes are online at post-movie.net, and we're on Facebook, and we're on iTunes. So if you can subscribe, that would be awesome, and leave a review. That would be triple awesome. Until next week, I'm Steve Head.
I'm John Black.
So long, everybody.
Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh.